Shalom, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hunt Blind with DAEL. And I have to say, today I am blessed because it is Shavuot, the dedication or the proclamation of our betrothal to our Messiah. And I am here looking at all these beautiful faces of people at HaTorah Natzarim here in Marion, North Carolina. Or Nebo, actually, we're actually in Nebo right here. So Dyersville, yes. Is that where Wade's from, King? I was interested because Wade said he was going to do a teaching, and I said, we've got to get this on. So it's going to be on the Hunt Blind here and on the website for Natzarim HaTorah. And Wade's actually going to go into the Jubilee years, and he's going to show us maybe where we're at. So, Wade, what you got for us, brother?
Okay, greetings. And begin with, let's take a quick look at Leviticus 25, if you want to look at it in your Bible.
Let me see it.
And Leviticus 25, in the first 7 verses, I believe, it establishes that Israel was to operate on cycles of 7 years. Right? For 6 years they would raise their crops, but the 7th year they just let the land rest. Okay, and that came to be called the Shemitah cycle. The 7th year, the land Sabbath rest year. Okay, in Deuteronomy 15:1, it says that year is going to be a Shemitah. Okay, that's Sheen, Mem, Tet, and Hay. And they're running out of space there. Shemitah. Okay, that means release or remission as of debt. See, in that year, all debts were cleared. So when we talk about the Shemitah cycle or the Shemitah year, that's what we're talking about. It's that 7th year that ends the cycle where they have a land Sabbath. Okay, then in verse 8, it says, you are also to count all 7 Sabbaths of years for yourself. 7 times 7 years, so that you may have the time of 7 Sabbaths of years, namely 49 years. Okay, you shall then sound the ram's horn on the 10th day of the 7th month, which is the Day of Atonement. You shall sound a horn all through your land, and proclaim the 50th year. And you'll consecrate the 50th year and proclaim a release. Proclaim a release, Shemitah, through the land to all its inhabitants. It will be a jubilee for you, and each of you shall return to his own property, and each of you shall return to his family. You shall have the 50th year as a jubilee. You shall not sow, nor reap its aftergrowth, nor gather in from its untrimmed vines. See? So they would go 49 years, and the next year would be a Jubilee year. In other words, they had 2 Sabbath years there. For 2 whole years, they didn't plant or harvest crops. Where's the cat? Thanks. Now, for the last 45 years since I came to understand this, now, in January 1967, I became acquainted with the radio broadcast and literature of an outfit that was then called the Radio Church of God. Okay. The next month, February, my first wife and I were living up in Ned, West Virginia, her family place. We came abruptly out of the Baptist church. On the first weekend in this month, May, we started keeping the Sabbath at home. The next month, that year, Pentecost, we generally use King James vocabulary for everything, but a lot of the Hebrew names we did learn that had our eyes open and ears keen. That was June the 19th of 1967, okay? We were on the road coming back from East Texas, and we stopped in a campground, made our first tent that day of keeping a feast. Just rested there in the campground, studied the Bible that day. Now that was Monday, June the 19th that year, see. The wording of King James, how you count it there in Leviticus 23, is a little vague, and we thought that the count came out on Monday. But in 1974, we got that all straight. So all this time, since I've learned about the Jubilee cycle, I've wondered, is it possible to know which years back in history or out in the future will be Jubilee years? And thanks to Yahweh Eloheinu, and special mention to Harold, because of right before Passover, he acquainted me and gave me a copy on the computer of some material that I'd never seen the like of before, that threw a different light on things. So I'll be showing you what that is. So today, what I want to proclaim is that the puzzle may have been solved.
Hallelujah.
If not precisely, I think at least we'll have a clearer view of it. Now first I want to do some clarification. So we always thought that the Jubilees were spaced exactly 50 years apart. No, it's 49. See, in that, what I just read there, on the Day of Atonement, they would sound the horn to proclaim it. Well, that was proclaiming, that was in the 49th year, it was proclaiming that next spring, beginning with the first of Aviv, see, that would be that 50th year that would be the Jubilee. Now, this is very connected with Pentecost, Shavuot, because we had the 50-day Omer count, did we not? Okay. This Jubilee cycle is the exact same model, except you have a day for a year. I'll show you that in detail in a few minutes, in connection with something else. See? Now, when we count the Omer, we've counted 50 days. This is the 50th day, right? But did we shove the first day of the week, Sunday, ahead till tomorrow? No. See, the 50th day is also the first day of the next 7-day week. Right? Same way, the 50th year that is the Jubilee is that first year of the next 7-year Shemitah cycle. Is that clear? Wow. I don't know why that never dawned on me before, until after Harold got to talking a while back. So, what it is, beginning with the time that Joshua went into the land and started raising crops, the Jubilees have been exact 49-year intervals down through history till now. So that's what I'm hoping to try to enlighten you a little bit of. Now, if we have a starting point that is definite somewhere, we know where we are, right? We have to know a particular year that was a Jubilee. Okay, that year was what we, by the Roman calendar, call 700-699 BC. BCE, if you prefer. Now, how's that determined? Well, there were such momentous events going on here that it was well recorded by other nations round about. And from their records, the exact year can be determined. There are 3 witnesses. 2 of them are Assyrian. the Valino cylinder, and the Rassam cylinder, ancient records in Assyria. Also in the Babylonian Chronicle. It makes it clear. Now, grab your Bible and look at 1 Kings 19. 1 Kings 19. I'm sorry, 2 Kings 19. 2 Kings 19. Okay, we're going to focus on verse 29, but first, now that's the next. Let's focus on verse 29 here. Verse 29 says, "Then this shall be the sign for you. You will eat this year what grows of itself." See, on a Shemitah year, if you had volunteer stuff out in the garden, come up from seed by itself, you could go out and have you some fresh vegetables once in a while, but you weren't supposed to harvest crops or sow them. Okay, you will eat this year what grows of itself. In the second year, what springs from the same. Okay, the second year is the Jubilee year, following that 7th Shemitah year of the cycle. And in the third year, sow and reap, plant vineyards, so you can go back to the usual thing, planting crops. Now, look also at Isaiah . It left me momentarily. Let's see. Isaiah 37. Isaiah 37. And verse 30. Isaiah 37:30. "This shall be the sign for you. You will eat this year what grows of itself. In the second year," which in this case is the Jubilee year, "that what springs from the same. And in the third year, sow, reap, plant vineyard," and so forth. Okay. What's going on here? This is the time of King Hezekiah. And it is Passover. That's documented as well, thoroughly. This is Passover, and they're besieged by the Assyrian army. See, it's a very tense Seder that year, because right over yonder, this giant Assyrian army is camped, ready the next day to come in and just devastate them. Okay? However, look at verse 33. "Therefore thus says Yahweh concerning the king of Assyria, he will not come to this city or shoot an arrow there, and he will not come before it with a shield, or throw up a siege ramp against it. By the way that he came, by the same he will return, and he will not come to this city, declares Yahweh. For I will defend this city to save it for my own sake and for my servant David's sake." Then the angel of the Lord went out and struck 185,000 in the camp of the Syrians, and when the men rose early in the next morning, behold, all of these were dead. See, this is like a replay of the original Passover with the death angel. The next morning, they had no worry at all, because all this 185,000 army were dead. So like I say, this is a very key point in history that's well documented. Alright, so if you have this as a starting point, well, just a plain little old regular calculator, not scientific, it's still repeating funds. You can put in the number and figure it yourself. 700 minus 49-year cycles, right? Minus 49. It's your equal. And the next one will be 651.50. So you remember it starts in the spring of E1. Goes to the next spring. Hit the equal mark again, 602. That'll be 602 and 601. Okay. You can bring it down. Now you got to be careful when you pass the BCAD line. All right, so you're coming down 3, 2, 1 BC. Then you switch to 1 AD. All right. Now, you'll see on my chart in a little bit that the last BC date is 14. All right. You put in 14 and subtract 49. You'll get a minus 35. But that is not 35 AD because, see, there's no zero notch in between. When you cross this BCAD line, you always got to add one to make it come out right. So we know we're dealing with 35 plus 1. See, the beginning date in AD is 36, and then you're adding 4 each time, right? So do the same function, put in 36 plus 4, and every time you get the equal mark, you got the next Jubilee year. Okay? Now, as I say, there are 3 witnesses as to this date. Actually, in a way, there's a lot more because I'll show you 12 witnesses of the Shemitah years. 12 different years that are pinpointed in history as Shemitah years. See, all these dates have to be perfectly at 7-year intervals, with the Jubilees at perfect 49 intervals. So, with that background, let's look at the chart. Hopefully it'll stay up here. Okay. Jubilee years, Hezekiah to now. As we said, we've established this year during Hezekiah's time as a definite date of a Jubilee. And the year before that was a Shemitah year. That was the one referenced in both those verses we read. And here's the 2 references we looked at. And as you go down, notice the ones I have highlighted with pink here. Those are the Shemitah years. This one, for instance, is chronicled in, where was it? The Persian records. Persian records chronicle that year. A lot of these down here were calculated or reaffirmed or whatever by Josephus, the great Jewish historian, who lived in the early New Testament time. Now, 9 of those are direct indicators. 3 are indirect. So, as to say, you've got many witnesses in history as to this cycle coming down. And here's the switch over from BC to AD. And it was right in this time here that the historian Josephus lived. Okay, so now at this point, let's lay the chart aside and let me do a little inset that will tie in with the chart later. Yeah, the 7 times. Now, in those blessings and curses, like in Leviticus 26, Deuteronomy 28, Harold, some others have referred to them today in proclamation. It makes a statement beginning in Leviticus 26:18. It makes a statement, the next little section there, 3 times. I will punish you 7 times. And the Hebrew word translated 7 times is shibah. Okay. Now, when something is repeated, that means God is wanting you to take good notice of it. If it's repeated twice, 3 times, something big there. You need to pay attention. All right? This has to do basically with years. It can also be intensity, like Chris is saying. There's 4 different levels of understanding of any scripture. One we're focusing on here is the time element, having to do with years, and some of you may be aware that we think that the original year, the orbit of the Earth, was 360 days, and it got changed. Anyway, biblical calculations are based with 360 days. So 7 times 360 days is 2,520 days. Now, I used to show this to my math and algebra students when they would be studying what's called prime factorization, because that is the smallest number that the 10 digits, 1 through 10, will all divide into even. You can try the calculator. Even 7 and 9 will go into it even. Right? And in Daniel 4:16, when Nebuchadnezzar's up on his balcony making all this great, I am so great, I have done this, I that. God lifted the spirit of man out of him so that it became something like, I believe, sub-animal for 7 years. A literal 2,520 days. And see, this is that portion of Daniel. It's in Aramaic, not Hebrew. And the Aramaic is the Sheba word, Sheba Idanim. Literally years, 7 years. So that makes it clear there. They're talking about 7 years here in reference to this term. Now, prophetically, a day is 1 year in fulfillment. See, it's like we see with the Omer count, literal days. In the Jubilee count, you have a day for a year. And I forgot to put in my 2 main references here. That's Numbers 14:34 and Ezekiel 4:6, where it specifies that certain prophecies are to be approached that way. Now, what it comes down to is that a national fulfillment of the 7 times punishment is 2,520 years. Okay? As I said, there were 3 statements of this. There in Leviticus 26. Now let's change charts.
What was the Ezekiel scripture on that, please?
Ezekiel 4:6.
4:6, thank you.
Now, in the Bible, there are 3 nations that came under this 7 times punishment. They were going to be nationally deprived, and cursed, punished for 2,520 years. And as I say, I'm going to tie this in with the Jubilee years at certain points as we go down. You have the house of Israel. They were taken captive, I learned, from a 3-year period from 721 to 718 BC. Some sources will say 722 BC, but that's right on it there, one way or the other. And the Bible tells how some of these were exiled into cities of the Medes where they're in contact with the Persian language. And most of them were in the region between the Black and Caspian Seas. And as you may well know, down through history, they've been dispersed into all over the world from that point, especially northwestern Europe, the British Isles, and then westward in Australia and everywhere like that. All right, the house of Judah. Now, I was thinking it's in the Bible, but years ago I learned that there's some source that gives the exact day that Nebuchadnezzar besieged Jerusalem. It's well known it's in 604 BC, but there's records that show that it was the 9th month and the 24th day. Let's say December. All right, about 500 years later, they started a great celebration on the 25th day of that month. Hanukkah, right? Okay, so there you have the 604 BC day. And in Babylon, you had the same 7 times punishments announced. It began with the handwriting on the wall, which is documented to the eve of Yom Teruah. See, the Babylonians also celebrated that day in some way in their culture. Now, don't think that I'm saying that the biblical celebration came out of what they're doing. No, this was the new moon of what's generally considered the first day of the month. Okay. So on the Feast of Trumpets, 539 BC, they're having this drunken banquet, you know. And a strange hand appeared writing 4 words on the wall. So they had to bring Daniel in to interpret them. Many tekel. The is the Hebrew vav, which is just a conjunction hand. See? Many tekel and parsing. All right, he said that that means that you've been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Your kingdom is divided among the Medes and Persians. But also, you have monetary values to these words. The mene is the Latin Roman mina coin. It was worth 50 shekels, so you have 2 of those. Tekel, that was, I guess, Aramaic for shekel, so that's 1. The parsing is 25. So you have a total there of 126 shekels. Okay? Looking at this word, the Parsi part. See, Parsi, that's the Persian language. We still call that today. And it also has the meaning of divide to the utmost. All right? So you divide 126 shekels to into the smallest amount of currency, smallest coins. It's gerahs. We have 20 gerahs per shekel. The Torah states that twice. Again, when something's repeated, you need to take note. Twice in the Torah it states a shekel is 20 gerahs. So multiply the 20, and what do you get? The handwriting's on the wall. So here they go into a 2,520 year count. And in Daniel 4:23, see, Babylon is pictured as this great tree that's cut down and destroyed. But the stump was left there with the roots in the ground, and they put 2 metal bands on it. One of iron, one of brass, which means iron is strength, brass is judgment. See, that great tree would be restrained from branching back out and growing back into the earth for 2,520 years. Then the bands would be removed. And again, here's the starting point. Now, keeping that in mind, let's go back to our chart. Where'd it go? Okay. coming down through here, let's see if there's some years that may have some significance with historic developments on these Jubilee years. Okay, the crucifixion was right before this one here. This is just a few years later. Now, in that Sabbatarian Adventist background of mine, we were very concerned about church history, documenting down through the centuries all these people who were outside the mainstream, keeping the Sabbath, see, the Sabbath-keeping elements that were hid out in places like the Alpine valleys and Carpathian mountains in Ukraine, mountains of Wales, parts of Africa, and so forth. We studied into those and how they got there. And if I'm remembering right, you can pretty well document this as the year at Joseph of Arimathea went back to check out his tin mines in what's now Glastonbury, England area, and established the true faith there. He carried the gospel into Britain at that point. Okay, come on down a ways. Most of these are meaningless to me until we get right here, 1065, 1066, which is the 50th cycle. What I'm not showing here, I've got 56 cycles down to now. There were 14 cycles before this. So now, what cycle are we in? Number 70. I hope you can see this. I had to write pretty small. All right? In 1066, you had the Norman French invasion of England. It totally changed a lot of things. Most people don't realize how dramatic that was and how far it went to setting up the English-speaking peoples for their future road coming centuries. And the one thing that came out of that was a new language that is now pretty much the international language of the world, English. Okay? Come on down. I'll mention who this rabbi was here later, but come down to the 60th cycle, 1506, and in that cycle the Turks took Jerusalem. We'll look at that in detail before we quit. Now, down here things start coming fast and hard, it seems to me. 1751, 1752, that was when the British world adopted the Gregorian calendar. See, they'd held out to that point because the Gregorian, Pope Gregory, the Catholics made the revision. That's why George Washington was really born on February the 12th by the Julian calendar, whereas it's February 22nd by the Gregorian calendar. But anyway, as I said, that got the British world more in line with the rest of the world. These calendars can be a horrible mess dealing with international commerce and things like that. In 1801, okay, this was the time that the English-speaking people just started to explode into the world. Why? Going back to the house of Israel, 721 to 718 BC, okay, to calculate where this 2,520 years ran out, you subtract 721 okay, I come out with 1799. What's wrong with that?
The zero.
You got to add one to correct for that change up. So, going to these dates, you'd have a period of 1800 to 1803. Okay? So, it looks to me like that 1800 was a Jubilee year when this 7 times punishment of the house of Israel ran out. See, then they could come into the great birthright blessings promised to Abraham for his descendants in the latter days, emphasized by Joseph on his deathbed in Genesis 49. All right, come on down. The next one, that's 1849-50. Well, we had a big gold rush in California then. That greatly expanded us and gave us a lot more gold in our coffers. A few years later, we bought Alaska with more gold and all sorts of riches, plus it's one of the most strategic places on the face of the earth, especially at the time of the Cold War against the Soviet Union. Next one, 1898-9. 1898 had the Spanish-American War that finally totally removed European influence from the Western Hemisphere and gave us territories like Puerto Rico,
Philippines.
Philippines, by all means, Cuba until 1920, and Philippines were given their independence in 1952. But the Philippines were major. It and Guam, some of those territories, against the Japanese in World War II. Okay. 47-48. On November 29th, 1947, the UN Resolution 181 reestablished the nation of Israel. See, and it took place the next May, middle of May, 1948. But it was decreed there by the UN in November of 47, which looks to me like a Jubilee year. All right, so the one we're in now, 96 and 97, the 70th cycle. Okay, this is when bin Laden was declared our main enemy. And see, as Harold was making reference to earlier, terror has been visited on us. Shortly after, we had 9/11, and that's when the hedge was removed. That's the time we're in now. Okay? So, at this time, I want to mention another sort of a timeline. I don't have a chart. It's called the Jubilee's Prophecy. It's on there. It was issued in the year 1217. It was this Rabbi Judah ben Samuel. I guess that's what? Yehuda ben Shmuel? Regensburg, Germany. Now, he was a rabbi that dealt with a type of mysticism, but not Kabbalah. He emphasized specific prayer and moral living. He had the title of Chahasi, the pious one. Okay. Right before he died in 1217, he said that for 8 Jubilee cycles, the Turks would control Jerusalem. In the 9th cycle, it would be sort of up in the air. Nobody in particular had it. Then in the 10th cycle, which would be the 70th one on here, in the 10th cycle of that prophecy, the Jews would control Jerusalem and the Messianic kingdom would arrive.
Hallelujah.
All right? Let's just look. Now, see, people have assumed especially thinking that Jubilees went in 50-year intervals instead of 49. They assumed that this 400-year period, because the multiple was 50, that those were Jubilee years. See, exactly 300 years after he died in 1517, the Turks, the Ottoman Empire, Edomites, took Jerusalem. And they kept it until 1917. 400 years now. Now that's not 8 Jubilees beginning to end, though. It's something else. Think of that alphabet chart I've been trying to pass around several years. The special numbers on the bottom. What does 400 represent? Sorrow and misery. Right? So you had the 400 years of affliction. It started with the birth of Isaac, coming on down to Exodus. Esau came after his brother as he was coming back to the land with 400 men, an army of 400 men, totally intending to wipe the whole outfit off the face of the earth, destroy Israel. It didn't happen. Okay, so here you had 400 years of Edomite rule of Jerusalem. Okay, and just how and when did that come about, the end of it? Okay, we know that the house of Judah, the chapter began in 604 BC. So we take 2520, subtract 604. You have 1916, but you have to add that one.
First World War. Now, full reparation.
Okay, when did the besiegement start? 9th month, 24th day. Let's say about the middle of December. Okay. On December the 15th that year, General Allenby with the British Army camped outside the gate of Jerusalem. 2 days later, December 17th, 1917, he took Jerusalem. The Turkish rule was ended. That was during Hanukkah. It may have been fulfilled to the exact day. Okay, and as it said, people assumed that those were Jubilee dates, but I don't believe so. But let's look at what the old rabbi really said. He said that during the course of 8 Jubilees, right? So, starting here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then it's freed. Okay, coming to the next one, it's up in the air, it's sort of no man's land. 6-Day War in June 1967, Israel takes it. So now we come into the present cycle. Israel is in command of Jerusalem, control of Jerusalem. Okay, you know the test of a prophet. If it comes true, you got a prophet. If not, okay. Well, he's been on the money for 9 Jubilees. If he's right about the next one, we know a prophet has been among them. And he said that the Messianic kingdom will arrive somewhere in here. I'm not setting any dates. No way I do that, because all these years I've seen all these people that had it all figured out and always fall flat on their face, or made their rear farther than that. Now I just wonder if maybe with the beginning of the next Jubilee that the millennial temple will be set up in operation, like in the latter chapters of Ezekiel. It's my idea. And another thought, in Daniel you have the 70 weeks prophecy, do you not? The countdown to the arrival of the Messiah. Okay? That's well documented. It was to start with the proclamation to rebuild Jerusalem of the Persian Empire. And that's documented to the year 457 BC. Okay? 70 weeks, that's weeks of years. See, a day for a year. Right? The Messiah was to appear at the end of the 69th week. In other words, 69 times 7, you got 483 years. That would bring you down to the fall of 27 AD. And then Daniel 9:27 shows that the Messiah was to be cut off in the midst of the week, the middle of the week. I think there's more than one meaning there again, because we know he was crucified on a Wednesday, middle day of the week. But here he had a 3.5-year ministry, half of a prophetic week, and he was cut off. And we wondered about how will that other 3.5-year ministry to Israel come about. But you notice that's a model of these 70 cycles. For here you have weeks of weeks. See? It's sort of like the Shavuot Omer count and the Jubilee count, see, again. So I'm wondering, will he come back in the middle of a Jubilee cycle? And by the time this time gets around, have things up and running totally.
Well, I hope so, wait.
But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. And like I say, it's not exactly right. Maybe we got a clear idea some way of it now. So, question.
There's an interesting way how this ties into Shavuot. I don't know if you guys picked up on it or not. Notice in, I think it's in Matthew where they said that no man knows the day nor the hour, not even the Son, because you don't have knowledge. But you will be given knowledge, which was during the time of Shavuot in the upper room. So he's saying that people will know once they have knowledge, which goes back to Shavuot.
Huh? Other questions?
Question?
Just blow away.
Okay, now I got one, because this is brought up, you brought up the 7 times 7 punishment. Now, you know, the disciples asked for sure, so we're to give our brother 7 times 7. Okay, so is that release from, will be the same thing as release from punishment through the Hebraic eyes?
I believe so. Hadn't thought of that. Yeah. 7 times 70, right? See, that comes out to 409. See, so the 70 weeks prophecy was for 490 years. Anything else?
No.
Yes.
Wait, is it 49 years and then the 50th year, is that the first year of the next 7 years?
Exactly.
Oh,
Right.
so it's always only really 49
Just like
years.
today is the 50th day. Today is the 50th day of the count, but it's the first day of this week.
Oh, okay. So it's always really only 49 years, it's not 50
Right.
years?
Right.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
So like I say, you can come down through history, subtracting 49 down to the
49.
BC AD, and then add 49.
Right, okay.
That's what it did here, come out with.
Okay.
So, did you also say you brought up every year, the year before that, you're having a 7-year cycle. So there's 2 years that you wouldn't plant your harvest, correct? With the year,
There should be not year the 49th, and then the Jubilee, there's 2 years there, there's no crop.
2 years. So all this time, it should have been, there'll be two years that you do not plant anything.
Right.
Back to back.
That was a test of faith. But if they did it,
Which they had failed because that was the reason they were sent in captivity with Babylon, because they did not let the land rest on it.
this occurred to me, I was about to forget the third punishment here, wasn't it? Okay? The 7 times punishment of Babylon, when was those bands to be taken off the stump so that the great tree of Babylon could grow back in, rapidly grow back into the world? Okay, 2520, and subtract 539. According to that, it was Yom Teruah in 1982, during the early part of Reagan's administration.
Well, this one, the Iran hostage thing took off.
That was in 78, till he came into office, 81, January 81. But could you say that since that time that we are hassled more and more by the Babylonian system?
What about Iraq? I mean, that's where Babylon is.
Yeah. Yeah,
You're saying then that 1981 is when the punishment ended?
82.
82.
Fall of 82.
All the punishment ended.
For the Babylonian system.
I lost you. What's the Babylonian system?
Well, has the power of this nation not greatly diminished in the world? We owe everything to China,
Yeah, absolutely.
and we got all these rules, regulations, and just,
Oh, absolutely.
it's more and more taking over our personal lives at every turn.
Yeah, right.
See, as I see it, we, this Ephraim nation, has basically become the latter-day Babylon. It's like we got two nations together here, really. See, the ones of us are conservative type brethren who basically have their heads on straight. Then there's all these others that just know nothing about things biblical, care less, that are imposing all this stuff on us. But anyway, it was right about this point that timeline ran out. Early 80s.
Okay, I want to do this. Let me show these to the camera right quick in case somebody wants to see if we get a good thing on it. This is, you can freeze frame that and check it out. We have any more questions?
Another question, but interesting thing. The last one, 1966 to 67. It's interesting because 67, after the 6-Day War, that's when you started having some rabbis receive Yeshua as Messiah, and
Right.
it started this whole.
As I understand it, this movement we're part of
Yeah.
started as a result of that
Yes.
6-Day War in
Yes,
67.
67.
96 is when Kadori found out about Yeshua, isn't it?
Who?
Rabbi Kadori,
Don't know him.
the 108-year-old lead teacher in.
He's the one that did the coded message that I showed you.
96, wasn't it?
I'm not sure.
He's
I thought it
96.
was more recent than that.
No, he died in 2010. But I think he said that the Messiah came to him in 96.
Maybe.
Anybody have any other questions, comments?
I think it was beyond significant that the similarity or the correlation, maybe I should say, that the to the week prophecy, I mean, that reality, really, where are we at?
Yeah.
The midst of that cycle.
If that were so, it'd be a few years yet, but it wouldn't be in 2016 or 17.
Not far.
So it's looking like maybe 2026 right there.
Well, going back to the levels of interpretation, it does make you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, at least, glad I had the chance to do this. I hope it'll be of some benefit.
Wait, I don't see how we can wiggle out of the fact that you've pretty much nailed down for us the Shemitah cycle.
What year?
He has, I don't see any doubt that Wade has nailed down the Shemitah cycle for us. So this year we're in, which year of the Shemitah cycle are we in this year? And what's to be the emphasis of our giving this year? Remember, tithing is tied to the Shemitah cycle.
Oh, I wish you put that on the board. What year are we in?
Is this the third year, Wade?
He's going to.
First, one thing I forgot, this material that Harold gave me that clarified so many things. Okay, it is where am I at here? Okay, it's called the Sabbath and Jubilee cycles. All right, it's a study report, hundreds of pages with lots of charts, very heavy, detailed stuff going into all of these historical references, and sources, and everything. It was published by Kadesh. Kadesh La Yahweh Press, back in the 90s. So you might can look that up, or if you wanted to try to sort through this. Like I say, it's heavy material, and I have a Dickens the way my eyes are these days, doing stuff on a computer screen.
Basically what he's saying, if you're having trouble sleeping, pick up that.
Anyway, Harold could probably give you a copy for your computer.
Yeah, they have a free download. PDF. Just go to the computer. It's a 300 and how many page book?
I don't know, it's over 300.
You guys do
There was a question.
it. Hey, Wade,
There was a question.
Wade, where are we now
That's,
exactly?
yeah, that was the question. Where are we at right now between
Okay,
here and this
so
cycle?
that would be the first year of one cycle. So, a little room here.
Excuse me,
Write
Wade.
it, book, please.
Excuse me, Wade. Can you actually say the dates when you're saying, instead of just pointing to some, and I'm talking about here, and you can't see
The
it.
Shema cycle, the one that was 1996, 97.
90s.
Okay, which would put
Okay,
you at
that's year,
45,
that's
46.
year one. So 2 would start in 97 in the spring, 3 would be 98, 4 is 99, 5 is 2000, 6 would be 2001, and 7 would be 2002. Okay, then you start another one. So you got 2003, I'll just put 03 and so forth. And you got 04, third one is 05, fourth one 06, fifth one 07, sixth one 08, seventh 09, so we got 10, EP08, and we're now in the third year of this Shemitah cycle.
Third year of the third
Third
cycle.
year, the 11th
Third year of the third cycle.
of the 12th.
We're in the third year of the third cycle of this 7-year cycle, Shemitah.
Okay, so on the third year, what's the emphasis of our giving to widows and orphans, right?
Huh?
The third year tithe is where if you want a special blessing with your tithe, it's directed it to widows and orphans.
Well, it's directed to where?
On the third year.
Widows.
Remember,
Oh, widows. Oh, widows.
okay,
Sorry about that.
widows and orphans, that God promises a special blessing if we obey Him, right? And so, okay, on the first and second and the fourth and fifth years of tithing we went to that. The third year and the sixth year of the Shemitah cycle is for widows and orphans. The seventh year, nobody plants or no giving, you live off the land. Okay, but this year is the year that we concentrate on being kind, giving your tithe, or giving, helping widows and orphans. There's a special blessing in it. That's the third year tithe. See, when it says third year tithe, it's talking about the third year of the Shemitah cycle. We always just wonder, what's this third year? What's this third year tithe? What's the third year of the Shemitah cycle?
Harold, you said the third and what other year?
Years 3 and 6.
6.
So every seventh year will be a year of release, correct?
There's no planting. Okay, in all the other years, you took a tenth or a tithe of the increase of your land on years 1 and 2, 4 and 5, and you took it to Jerusalem, gave it to the Levites. You took another tenth you have a feast on. On years 3 and 6, you took a tenth or a tithe to Jerusalem, gave it to Levi. The other tenth that you took was for the widows and orphans, to bless them. And your feast expenses were above and beyond that. And on the seventh year, nobody planted, or nobody tithed, and everybody, you, priest, Levite, widow, orphan, lived off the land and trusted what this lady right here got testified to. So we're just a few years away from a seventh year, Nancy. We might be tested real hard to see if we're willing to trust in it.
The thing, because we know that when Babylon got sent into captivity, it was because of their unwillingness to trust in Him, because that was the reason they got sent in, because of the sabbaticals of the land, because they did not give the land the rest.
Yeah, it was Judah, right, when they went to Babylon, right, absolutely.
And that because those 7 years that they did not give the land the rest, they had to spend 7 years in the captivity before that.
Did everybody catch the magnitude of the miracle that Wade witnessed? Here King Hezekiah and his people are doing Passover. They're being besieged. They don't have any food, they didn't plant any crops. And the Assyrians sure ain't going to plant the poor world. They're coming to hate them, aren't they? No. And do you see what this matter of trust boils down to? Will you walk in my statutes, my ordinances, my commandments, my new cot, as they're called, and come the fourth year, we might be tested just exactly like Hezekiah was before. That's just the 6th year comes, we can't plan for that. And in 3 more years, if the economy keeps going like it is, okay. How many of you heard about JP Morgan Chase Bank losing? They first said $2 billion, didn't they? Then they upped it. And they finally admitted to us it was from derivatives. From derivatives.
Yeah.
The total exposure of the banks in America alone to derivatives is about 6 times the world's yearly economic production.
I'm sorry, what is a derivative?
A derivative is like a bet on a bet. That's what it is. And it's insured by guess who? Raise your hand.
Huh?
Raise your hand. It's insured.
Your tax money.
It's insured by your tax office.
And don't think they didn't know what they were doing.
Sure they did. Absolutely did. And so if it keeps going, we might be, it might be, we might be being besieged by a financial tsunami of some sort. You know, but by the time we get to that point, it will be a real test of our faith, I'm sure.
Yeah, many are saying, when I say many who speak out about this are saying this fall that.
Way before that, yeah.
Or before, yeah.
Wade, when is the next Shemitah year?
The next Shemitah year? Okay,
17, isn't it? Wait.
please so.
Seventeen.
Yeah.
16.
2016?
Yeah.
2016.
That's right, 2016.
16, it's not 16.
I know, 16.
Yeah, right.
2016. Well,
So
isn't
many are
that,
saying, isn't that?
isn't that something? Wow. Wow.
Now, would that be in the middle of the week?
Ooh, boy, all the numbers are starting to fall in place.
It's gonna add up, it's gonna say where the middle of the week's gonna end up here.
If I was a betting woman.
It's all,
I don't know.
Well, you know, it is odd how that year, that number comes up.
Oh, boy, yeah. Okay, I've heard that number.
Right here is the middle of the middle
Every minute, 2020 is the
Shemitah
middle of
cycle
Shemitah
of
cycle.
the
2020.
49 years.
Okay, did everybody get that? 2020 is the middle of the cycle, of the midweek cycle
Of
The middle of the
Jubilee.
of the Jubilee.
What, I lost you. Wait.
2020, the year 2020 will be the middle of the week of the seventh
It'll
cycle.
be the middle year of the middle Shemitah cycle of these 7 we're in now.
Not setting any dates.
Well, we're not saying any days, we're just curious on things. Yeah, don't think we say dates, no. We're just,
I would just say, don't be surprised if it does happen.
yeah. Yeah, don't be surprised if things even come
If it
into play.
doesn't, don't get bent out of shape either.
Well, in my ignorance and in my, I haven't been in this that very long. I've always heard that year 2016, 16 or 17, so that Jesus was coming back.
And there's a question I got for Wade, because we've all seen it in the Word, okay? It says, my spirit will not always strive with man, and he gives 120 years. Am I correct in saying this would be the 120th cycle?
I believe so. From creation.
1995?
I think I've seen that.
I know, yeah.
So that's the 120 years
But you
in this next cycle, in 2045, 46. Any more questions, comments?
I said, thank you, lady, that was
Yeah, let's give Wade a big hand on that. We'll actually open it up. Wade, I appreciate you coming on again and doing this for us. Of course, I'm going to do it anyway, but like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be also on the Natzarim HaTorah website. Is it NatzarimHaTorah.com? NatzarimHaTorah.com. Go there, the Torah portions there. Also, it's going to be on the Hunt Blind with DAEL, so you can see it twice. Take that and study it and see what you come up with. And, you know, I know there's going to be a place there where if you got any questions, you go in and ask questions. And I'm sure Wade, Harold, or some others can break it down on you, break it down for you and show you and send you information on it. So, ladies and gentlemen, for myself, Wade, for Natzarim HaTorah, I want to say thank you and love, peace, and chicken grease. Shalom.
Bye.